Okay, this is a video I'm making to show you around an Aprilia Mana, I think NA 850cc motorbike that I have going spare. Yeah, a really interesting bit of kit. So let me just show you the general condition first. It's in really good condition. I think it's done 14,000 miles. Let me just go around it. Brakes are all good. Engine's perfect. Chain and sprockets are fine. Tyres are, I'd say, about 50% worn. No damage to speak of, I suppose. Is that a mark? Yeah, there's a tiny little mark, things like that. So you get little. It's a most of them come off, to be honest. Tiny little marks on it, but nothing. It's got a hugger on it. Still got the stock exhaust on it. I think you can get a GPR exhaust for it if you want to make a bit more noise. Yeah, come back to all this gubbins in a minute. That's people who know their engines will be looking at that, trying to figure out what the hell's going on. But then if you're looking at this bike, maybe you already know it. Spot the missing thing. Again, both sides. Anyway, okay, so Aprilia Mana 850. I bought this motorcycle because I'm about a year and a half on from a near fatal accident. If you read the advert that's maybe led you here, I'll tell you a little bit more about it there, but basically I had a paralysed left leg, so I couldn't change gear. Oh, by the way, we'll come back to this later, I suppose, but there is a gear shift lever that I've removed because it got in the way. It just fits on a conventional shaft there, but it's electronically actuated, not a physical movement of a gearbox. That's in the garage. I've got some spares for it. There's a top box that'll go on it. There's also a big massive touring screen if you want to be all nice and cozy and fancy taking it around Europe. Anyway, so 850cc Italian V twin, 60 degree V. I think you count these are L's. I think these are 90 degree. There you go. So it's a 90 degree twin. Its selling point is that it's a hybrid. It's got a CVT drive, which is a constantly variable transmission. I can't remember what it's constantly. Yeah, maybe. But what scooters have. So it's a belt and a variator. But it's cleverer than that. So let's talk through the drivetrain. So the gear shaft comes out. I think the air filter's in there. CVT's in there behind that cover somewhere. Drives a CVT drive onto a drive shaft, which then comes through to a final sprocket, front sprocket on this side, and drives the rear wheel via chain. It means you can have the engine in the right place and not sitting on the swing arm like a scooter, which means it actually handles, and it does handle really, really well. Anyway, so this particular bike, let me run you through the operation. What happens is you start the thing up, switch it on. Let's have a look at I don't know if you can see the LCD screen there, but basically, at the moment, I don't know what mode it's in, but you can change the modes. Can you see the screen there? I don't know. Can you see me in the background? I don't know. So you can change. Can you change the modes with the engine not working? No, you can't. Right. Okay. So let's start this up. It's still got the old battery now. I've got a brand new battery for it, and it has been sitting not on an Optimate, as most Italian bikes would, probably for a month. Literally stone cold. Let me just prove it. There you go. Stone cold. Hasn't been started. The amount of Italian twins, big capacity twins, that have, shall we say, starting issues is massive. I've never had a problem with this. It's such a reliable starter, and it's just going to prove me wrong because it's Italian, and they like to do that. Anyway, let me just start it up. Oh, sorry. Right, okay. Because it's CVT drive, might need two hands for that. You need to hold on a brake, and start. So let me see if I can get enough stuff to do that. There you go. Perfect. There you go. So at the moment it's telling us we're in sport gear mode. I press and hold it. You go into touring mode, which I would assume you would spend most of your time. You've also got a sport mode and a rain mode. Put it back into sport gear, and I'll talk you through that in a moment. You can't rev it whilst it's standing still because you don't have a clutch. There is no neutral. So anyway, you can hear no untoward noises. The engine is beautifully silent, no knocks, rattles, bangs, and I don't know if you can go through the menu. There you go. Average, did I say average 90 miles an hour? The miles per gallon is was in American MPG, so that's all nonsense as well. Menu system, there you go. So it's done 13,690 miles, so under 14,000 RPM, and for a 2008, 2009 bike, that's hardly anything. Right, allow me to, oh that's the other, like, while we're here, there's a little button up here, there we go, and its piece de resistance is that bad boy. Let me just switch the engine off, I'll talk you around it. So I'd call that my front trunk. I can fit I've got a medium full face helmet, and in one orientation I can fit a medium full face helmet in there. Really handy. The actual fuel is put on the seat, under the seat, so you can, I think there is how do you release it? I think you actually have to release it like this. So yeah, pop the seat up and your fuel goes in there. As you can see, under its clothes, it's pretty clean and tidy as well. Anyway, yeah, this bike I've done probably less than 500 miles on it. I bought because I was my injuries were I had a paralysed left leg in particular, so I couldn't change gear. So I bought this to get me back on a bike, but then I found my own limitations, where I found it very difficult to swing a leg over it, and by the time I could swing a leg over it, I'd converted my Ducati to electronic shift using a heel tech flat shifter, and I can't help it, I'm a maniac. The Ducati's fast and mental, so if I want to do that, I will do that, and otherwise I just commute on my scooter. So yeah, so that's it. So when I got it, the fork seals were leaking, so I've replaced the fork seals. The front brake was spongy, bled front brake. It came with new pads, put some pads in, oiled, greased the chain, give it a general clean up. But other than that, I've probably done lots of bits and pieces to it, but yeah, it didn't need much, and it rides absolutely flawlessly. It's surprisingly agile. It's really comfortable. And yeah, let's just, because we're looking at this side of the bike all the time, let's do this, because I know I like to see every inch. All the suspension adjustment works. Sorry, because it's CVT and we talked about it before, you can't leave it in gear, can't rev it because it's not a neutral as such. It's kind of always in gear, but it's also got a clutch that it pulls in automatically at low revs, so, and at a standstill. So at the moment, if I was to lift it up, it would roll backwards, and I can't leave it in gear. I'll talk about the gears in a minute as well. It's really technologically, it's an amazing thing, and you'd think for an Italians are notoriously bad at doing electrics, and they're renowned for being really reliable. They just don't go wrong, and you think, and I'll talk you through how clever it is in a mo. But anyway, what this is a handbrake. So rear brake caliper there, I don't know if you can see it. Oh, that's what I replaced the pads for the handbrake. So there are two calipers, one underslung one and one normal one. So the normal one, the rear brake's in the right place, in the normal place. Some people do convert them to put the rear brake on there, just like a scooter, and to be honest, I was thinking about doing that. I like a little bit of rear brake, you know, just to I don't know, just to help me balance me around the corners, and I find on the scooter it's quite a handy little thing. But anyway, so yeah, handbrake there, and it also means that you can't ride off and forget about it, because that's exactly where your knee goes. So you spike yourself in the leg and you go, apart from me, who had terrible nerve damage in the leg, and I probably wouldn't feel it anyway. So but I haven't done it yet, so I've replaced the pads in there. That all works perfectly. In fact, I'll prove that. Lift it up, Yeah, there you go. She goes nowhere. So yeah, all good. Yeah, like I say, both sides, fork seals done, nothing missing. It is completely standard, rides excellently, really smooth. Yeah, I don't think it's got any faults at all. And like, yeah, let me just talk to you about this CVT as well. Because it's a CVT drive, normally on a scooter, obviously, you know, they balance with a set of rollers and the spring, the point at which it bites, and it kind of does that. So if you put it in touring mode, it does exactly that. But what it does is it electronically limits the output, and changes where along the rev range that it shifts. Or not, sorry, where it shifts, how it responds to that throttle response. So if you put it in touring and give it full beans, what will happen is the revs will raise up and it will propel you along at kind of mid-rev sort of speed. If you put it in sport, it changes. That's when you open it right up, the revs run higher. I'm not quite sure how it does it. I think the way it does it is it electronically limits one of the ramps on the variator to either encourage it to be higher revs or lower revs. And the big clever one is you can actually ride it pretty much like a conventional motorbike. So I have it there in sport gear mode, and what that does is electronically locks one side of one of the variators, so it literally goes through the gears exactly like a conventional motorcycle would, but without a clutch. So it'll take off in first, and then if you press the plus button here, or shift conventionally with the gear lever, that electronically tells it to move up one. Revs drop by a normal amount, and then you ride through the torque again. There's no rev counter as such, but what you do get is a series of shift lights coming up. I think 1, 2, 3, pretty much the same as my Ducati. And yeah, and there's a certain satisfaction, you know. It is nice, and there is a little bit of extra pep up there, you know. But then, you know, if you do like to rev your bike through its rev range and sort of play with that and have some engine braking to sort of change down into corners, then it's perfect. But I do suspect if you live with this long term and you ride it for more than 500 miles, like than I have, I suspect you'll end up in touring mode a lot. It's just so easy. You just rev it and it goes, and it's always nice and torquey. It's always in a nice fat part of the torque range. It's I've got to say, I think it's it's an ideal commuter. Sorry, not an ideal commuter, an ideal tourer. And you know, even for like an everyday kind of scratch, it handles surprisingly well. It's got a relatively short wheelbase. It's really sort of relatively sporty rake and trail on the front. It's on the it's comfortable, but in terms of handling, it changes direction quite well. But anyway, as you can see, I mean, general conditions, I would say excellent for the age of bike that it is. No wall discs. There's literally no mechanical foibles to speak of. Like, you just sort of start there after a month, but not on an Optimate. I don't know another Italian twin that would do that. It's been utterly reliable for me. It's really good on the fuel. I think, I don't know how many miles you get to a tank, but it's compared to everything else I've got, it's my, apart from the scooter, it's the most economical thing that I've got. Twin spark plugs per cylinder, and yeah, it's in braided hoses front and rear. I think they all come as standard. Aprilia, I'm coming to sort of grew up with this love of Ducatis, and I don't know, the more Aprilias I have, I think it's the quality's there. It just doesn't, they just don't paint them a natty red colour. Anyway, okay, that's about it. Like I say, I've got a top box for it that will come with it, and I also have quite a big touring screen. I think the touring screen comes up about yay high, so it is a big beefy thing, and that's why I don't have it on it. It just looks like a tourer. Anyway, all right. Hopefully that's all the information you're going to need. Happy bidding. I hope bidding. If I don't know where I'm going to sell it, actually, to be honest. I mean, this is just information. Yeah, like I say, suspension all works, forks are good, doesn't dive too much. It's a sporty, good bike. Anyway, that's it. That's me waffled on for long enough. Yeah, hope you. Any questions, just give us a shout. I'm more than happy to talk bikes with anybody for as long as it takes. Cheers.